So maybe you just acquired your dream convertible, an R107 Mercedes, or maybe you've had one for a while, and you know, there can be a little temperamental, little things can go wrong because of the age. These are old cars. And it may be that one day you get into the car, like my 380 SL here, and you turn the radio on, and you can hear it running. Still running, but it's not going all the way up. And when you turn it off, listen. Okay, there's something wrong in there. Now I do have the switch on the dash all the way to max. You want to make sure if your antenna's not coming all the way up, it may be that switch. But there's something wrong with this antenna, and I'm going to need to pull it out. So what I'm going to show you in this video is just quickly how to get access to that antenna and pull it out. I'm not going to go through the procedures of how to rebuild a Hirschman antenna, but we'll pull it out and we'll talk about alternatives on how you can fix your own. The first step is to remove this nut at the top of the antenna and pull off the mounting hardware. There's two types of nuts depending upon what year you have. If you have this chrome type of hardware, you have this type, which of course takes just the standard open end wrench. Then you have this type here, which has a couple of slots in it. And that's what I have here on this 380 SL. So you're going to say, well, how do I get that out? There's a couple ways. You could get a couple of straight blade screwdrivers, stick them in there, and then get a vice grip or a spanner wrench and try to turn it this way. I use a tool that I have in my toolbox. This is for pulling relays. And I can put this right in those slots like this and hold it and squeeze it and then turn this off. Once you loosen it up, it'll come off by hand unless it's rusty. Most of these aren't real tight. If you have to, spray a little lubricant in there and that'll definitely help get this off. Okay, and then lift that off and then take the grommet off. Okay, now this is loose at the top. Now let's go into the trunk and we're going to remove that left side inner fender panel to gain access to the antenna body. Removing this liner is very straightforward. I'm just going to share with you one tip that'll make it go a lot easier. You want to pull this carpet back, but before you start pulling this liner out, you want to take these two thumb nuts off this taillight bulb housing and pull it out and set it down here. Once that taillight housing is off, it's going to keep from, binding up back here in this corner, and then you can just pull, reach in here, roll this down, pull it down like this. You got to get it by the antenna up here. There you go. And then you can just pull it out. So that's what that looks like. You can see it just sits down in there. Some of them will have a pin right here you have to remove if this has never been removed before, but this one's been out. Okay, I can set that aside. And now you can see the antenna. The antenna is only mounted by this lower bracket with one screw. So I'm going to get a Phillips screwdriver, remove this screw, and then I can drop the antenna down and disconnect the wiring and the antenna lead to the radio. Just like that, it drops right down. Okay, and we can pull it back here. Now you can unplug it. This is the wiring plug with 5 pins. And then I'll unscrew this antenna lead here that goes up to the radio. Unplug that. So there it is. There's your original Hirschman antenna for the R107. I'm going to take this over the bench and open up and let's see if we can see anything obvious that's wrong with this. I pulled the cover off and right away you can see quite a bit of corrosion down here. So the next thing I did is I hooked it up to my power source and my plug, and I'm going to run it up and watch closely. Watch the tail right here and then watch the wheel as it tries to move the antenna mast up. Okay, right there it starts slipping. You can see the wheel is moving, but the mast tail is not. Now let's retract it. Okay, it's coming down, stops, look at that. Tail's not moving, and the wheel makes about 2 or 3 revolutions. So there's a couple things. We could have a worn out tail. That plastic gets worn over time. There's teeth in this wheel here. Sometimes those teeth get worn out. But the first thing I'm going to do is just get the antenna mast out and take a close look at the tail and then compare it with a new one. I'll use a 13mm open end wrench to remove this top nut for the mast. I'm going to go ahead and run it up, take some of the pressure off the threads. There we go, now it comes out. You can see it was just bound up in there. Now I'm just going to pull. Okay, there we go. I pulled it right out. Okay, I'm going to take a close look at this. I can run my fingers down. Sure enough, I can feel a flat spot right here. Right in here, there's a flat spot. These are supposed to be round. So it's been wearing on this inside edge quite a bit. And that could be the problem. Let's compare it with a new mast. Maybe there you can see the difference in the thickness as I roll it up on the side where it's worn right in here. So I have a hunch a new mast may fix the problem, the primary problem, but you don't just want to take and put a new mast, and you really want to take everything apart and clean it and lube it. You know, I've got another antenna already refurbished for a 107, and I've also got a nice aftermarket antenna I can install. So for the time being, I'm not going to mess around with this one anymore today. Let's take a closer look at this aftermarket antenna, and then you can decide whether you want to install one or try to get a replacement Hirschman. Now I need to warn you, these aren't made anymore. And they're very hard to find in good condition. I have maybe 4 or 5 of these refurbished, where I've taken them all apart and completely gone through them and installed new masts. And when those are gone, I'm not going to have any more either. So, you know, if you have a collector car and you're concerned about originality, you might want to try to go for one of these. And this is something you can install yourself. It's only a 3-wire antenna. It goes up and comes down. You can't adjust the height like you can on the Hirschman with 5-wire connections. So it's a little simpler. It could be a little more reliable. The Hirschman is very heavy and it's much larger. You know, the aftermarket is light. Let's look at the top, because that's what you're going to see coming out of the fender. Now, at first glance, they're pretty close, and most people who are not aware of what 107 antennas look like would not even notice. From a distance, it's pretty close. You get the bright chrome and the black seals are kind of similar. And this antenna comes with a bunch of different adapters for a bunch of different Mercedes as well as other European cars. I think you might find this interesting. You know that we used to sell the universal Hirschman antenna for a lot of different applications. And this is a new aftermarket one we're selling. They're pretty close in size, but look at the difference in the height where the antenna mast moves up and down. What I found is that the shorter length here makes it easier to install this in an R107 and probably gives you a little more options to move things around and adjust things as opposed to the old Hirschman Universal. We can no longer get these. But anyway, that's just a small point to note. I'm really impressed with this and all the fittings that come with it. I think it's an excellent aftermarket antenna. I just finished installing the aftermarket antenna in this 380SL, and look at how nice it fits. You put it at this angle and that panel just slides right in there, almost like it's a perfect fit. The bracket is easy to install on the bottom. I've come up with a couple different wiring options for you in my instructions, even leaving the original plug intact, or I provide these special snap lock woggle connectors so you can wire the antenna in and easily disconnect the wiring when you want to. So the kit will come with full detailed instructions on how to get this installed and adjusted, along with some critical troubleshooting information on how to find out if your wiring plug is even working properly, whether or not you have proper power back here to the antenna. So I'm really happy with this. Really happy with the installation on this. Now let's check out and see how it works. You just got to see me install an aftermarket antenna in my R107 380 SL, and I know everyone wants to see, well, how does it work? Watch. I'll turn the radio on. Let's cross our fingers. Well, it doesn't look like I needed to cross my fingers. Look at how nice that works. Look at how straight that is. Now, if you're installing this in your own car and you don't like the angle, if the angle's tipped one way or another, you can go in and loosen that bottom bracket on the antenna or bend it to realign the mast so it's coming straight out of the car. All right, let's see how it retracts. Like most Hirschmans, they don't go all the way down. Look at this one. Bang, right down and locked. So you'll have to admit, regardless of the price, that's a pretty impressive alternative to the original Hirschman antenna. I've also installed this same antenna in a 450 SL, and as far as I can tell, everything's the same. The bracket location, the fender mounting hole is in the same location. So I'm currently offering this kit for the 450 SL and the 380 SL. I'm not sure about the 560 SL. If any of you 560 owners can send me some pictures, I can let you know whether this will fit or not.